6 drivers that have crashed behind the safety car. Crashing a car in a race isn't great. Crashing behind a safety car, well, that's another level of embarrassment. But unfortunately for these 6 F1 drivers, we're going to talk about it in this video. You best turn off if you're one of those people. Jenson Button, 2000 Italian Grand Prix. Back in 2000, a fresh-faced Jenson Button made his F1 debut. His season with BMW Williams F1 team was going well, with some point-scoring finishes under his belt. However, when it came to the Italian Grand Prix of that year, it went rather downhill. After a big crash on the first lap, the trusted safety car was brought out. Once everything was cleaned up and recovered after several laps, the safety car lights went out and the field prepared to race again. Schumacher, who handled the restart, allowed the whole field to bunch up, which startled Button. As a result, and so not to drive up the rear of his teammates, Button took evasive action and ended up speeding along the grass verge beside the track. The move caused serious damage to the bottom of his BMW Williams. As a result, his car doesn't make it around the next corner and he ploughs straight into the wall at Parabolica. Button blamed Schumacher, who apologised for it after the race. Lewis Hamilton, 2008 Canadian Grand Prix. This example was a huge mistake from the now 7-time world champ in his second year in Formula 1. After Adrian Sutil retired from the race, a safety car was called upon to remove the stranded Force India from the side of the track. As a result, a high percentage of the front runners decided to pit for fresh tyres. Hamilton led the pack that included Raikkonen, Rosberg, Kubica and Alonso into the pits, but a slow stop from his team meant Hamilton lost that advantage. Instead, it was Raikkonen who emerged from the pit stops at the front, closely followed by Kubica. A red traffic light was clearly displayed at the end of the pit lane once Raikkonen and Kubica reached it, so they had to wait at the exit until it was safe to go. Hamilton, flustered by his slower pit stop, pelted down the pit lane and failed to see the stationary cars in front of him as well as the red pit lane light. Yet, Hamilton managed to plough into the back of Raikkonen's car, with Rosberg following suit and crashing into the back of Hamilton. It was a concertina effect and a disaster. Michael Schumacher, 2004 Monaco Grand Prix. When Michael Schumacher appeared from the Monaco tunnel with no front left wheel, many questioned how on earth it happened, including myself, a 12-year-old Schumi fanboy. It was a terrible sight to see. He was leading the race under a safety car when suddenly he was forced to retire with heavy damage. Schumacher stamped on the brakes in an attempt to warm them up when following the safety car through the tunnel. Juan Pablo Montoya was behind Schumacher and had to resort to squeezing between the Ferrari and a close barrier in an attempt to avoid a big accident. He instead misjudged it and caught his front tyre against the rear of Schumacher's car, which sent him flying into the barriers on the other side of the circuit. Montoya was very apologetic on the team radio to Ferrari, but the damage had already been done and prevented Schumacher from equalling Senna's record of 6 wins around the Principality. I'm not bitter, I promise. Sebastian Vettel, 2007 Japanese Grand Prix. The Grand Prix in Fuji was a race affected by heavy rain, with Fernando Alonso managing to crash after just pitting for a new set of wet tyres. Debris from his McLaren was scattered all over the track, which already had poor visibility, and so the safety car was deployed. Hamilton led, followed by Webber and then Vettel in third. When suddenly, TV cameras point to the car of Webber, who is now trackside after what looks like a bad aquaplane from the wet track surface. After he gets out of the car, a replay is broadcast which shows Vettel completely losing control of his car and smashing it right into the back of Webber. Both are forced to retire, with Vettel's incident meaning he binned his best race result to date after running in third. Despite this awkward coming together though, Vettel was later promoted to Red Bull in 2009 to partner Webber as teammates. The 2007 Japanese Grand Prix was generally a shocker of a weekend for Paul Webber though, after he contracted food poisoning and threw up in his helmet mid-race and carried on racing. Now, that is what you call dedication and also disgusting. Romain Grosjean, 2018 Azerbaijan Grand Prix. Baku, home to one of the most iconic and meme-worthy radio messages we have ever heard. That's right, take yourself back to the 2018 Azerbaijan Grand Prix. The Red Bulls of Verstappen and Daniel Ricciardo had spent most of the race fighting for position, when on lap 40 of 51 the two collided along the start-finish straight and left us fans totally speechless. As you all know, the first rule of racing is not to take out your teammate. To that, Verstappen and Ricciardo said, "Hold my Red Bull," as they came together in what is one of the most shocking crashes from the last few years. With tons of debris being cleared up, a safety car was inevitably deployed. Fast forward just a few moments and Roman Grosjean has crashed into the wall after trying to get some heat into his tyres. What follows on the radio is a bunch of yelling, some profanities, and then the "I think Ericsson hit us." Of course, Ericsson was nowhere near Grosjean's car, and his crash into the wall under the safety car was entirely his own fault. A lot of people seem to believe Roman himself blamed Ericsson over the radio, when it was in fact his race engineer. George Russell, the 2020 Emilia-Romagna Grand Prix. Let's finish with the most recent then. It looked to be a fairly uneventful end to the Grand Prix. That wasn't until Max Verstappen suffered a tyre blowout from second place with just 14 laps of the race to go. The incident required a safety car, with Verstappen beached in the middle of a gravel trap at turn 5. And with Max out of the race, the Williams of George Russell was promoted up into 10th position and tantalisingly close to scoring his first ever points in Formula 1. That was until Russell made what he called the biggest mistake of his career. Oh, George. Driving directly behind the safety car, Russell was trying to warm up his tyres and gave it some throttle as he hit a small bump. The crash, which sent him into an immediate 90-degree spin into the wall, resulted in the safety car being out for an even longer period of time as marshals had to tend to the meter boards that he had destroyed in the process. There you have it, 6 F1 drivers that have crashed behind the safety car. Which was your favourite story? Have we missed any out? Let us know in the comment section below.